Good morning, everybody, and you are now watching another How to Play World of Warcraft with No Eyesight video using this SKU add-on. I am Bill. I in-game go by Holy Virus, and some call me the Blind Warrior Gamer who've known me in the past. And we're going to go over the SKU menu. This is a menu system that's built into the game where some of those shortcut keys that I had mentioned in previous videos are accessible through a navigational list. So, we're going to go through that menu segment by segment so that you kind of have an idea of where things are. This will help you with the understanding of where certain settings may be, as there are different sets of options and different sets of filters and binds that can be put together based on what you do within this main menu. Also, as a note, some of the functions within the menu are not yet available, and they are to come in later builds of the add-on. So make sure that you go back to the SKU Discord, into the Developers Talk channel, or into the SKU Updates channel to see if any new updates have been posted. Because what is up there on CurseForge is outdated. In fact, it's probably about a year to a year and a half old, and it was for the Wrath of the Lich King season servers prior to Season of Discovery and prior to the Anniversary servers. So it's very important that you go back and make sure that your mod is up to date, because as one of our newest blind players found out in the visually prepared gaming community, if your mod isn't up to date and you try to access certain functions of the screen, like accepting quests or choosing your reward, or even trying to pull up your character sheet by going shift down or control shift down to skip categories, that sheet comes up blank and it has no information in it because your mod is outdated and for a different version of the game entirely. So again, make sure that that's updated. I will put together a video later to show how to do those installations for those who are confused as to how to get the mod working without corrupting the World of Warcraft installation or not be able to get the mod to work at all. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and shrink my mouse cursor because it looks like a giant fist on the screen. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So, to pull up the SKU menu, you hold down Shift, press F1. Navigation. You can let go of Shift at this point and navigate through the menu. So, it starts out on the navigation pane. This is similar to doing the Shift F9 or Shift F10. And so you can do a deselect all, which deselects all of your currently set waypoints, same as doing Shift F12. This is where you can go ahead and view individual waypoints. You can select a waypoint out of recents, map by distance, or we can deselect a waypoint. We can clear the visited waypoints, so anything that you've been to. There's a thing that'll show up sometimes when you're looking through your lists, when you're looking for like a specific enemy or something, and they'll let you know, oh, you were at that point already, you may have already killed that mob, or picked up that item. You can clear that visited and reset it, because then you want to go back and check for anything that may have respawned if you're moving about quickly. Then, you can set quick waypoints to coordinates. This basically sets up a TomTom arrow from your point to a specific navigation point. It's only going to give you a generalized direction. You cannot set specific pathing to a distant location unless it has already been pre-programmed with a close route or a selected route. But what it will do is it will tell you how far away it is, what direction it is, and then give you an idea of where you kind of have to go and how far away it is. This could be helpful when working with sighted players to try to find something that maybe they're not sure exactly where to go, and you could use this to give a general idea without having to go out and maybe look for a map or something, especially if you kind of have a general idea and maybe you've already got some waypoints written down, and you can just tell them, oh, here, let me punch in those coordinates. You pop them in for that zone and be like, oh, yeah, we got to go this way. And then they can kind of generalize and figure it out based on your ability to track, similar to using a TomTom.
Waypoint plus. Follow route plus.
So follow routes are to follow routes of NPCs that move around. For example, this can be very useful when you're in Westfall and you're looking for the Defias Messenger, who travels from Moonbrook all the way to Jangerlode Mine. And so you can set a tracker to that NPC's route, and then you can walk that guy's path until you find him, from spawn point to despawn point. It's quite useful, especially if you're not really sure what their path may be, but you know you need to find that guy and he's moving around a lot. This is the area you want to go. And so, again, it's under navigation, follow route.
Data plus.
Data you want to leave alone. Inside the data, you can actually clear the mapping. The only time I think this could ever be useful is if you have somebody who is sighted and using this mod so that they can create waypoint maps to then submit to the developers to create a new build with a more streamlined travel path for blind players. There is a mapping tool that can be downloaded by sighted gamers so that they can assist the blind gamers in getting around the world on their own by creating much more improved and streamlined maps. There may be some sighted players out there who are like, ooh, I'm going to go and do this, and I'm going to make this so that I'm going to take a player and get them killed all the time because I think it's funny. Will not happen. When you submit your routes or your mapping to the devs, they will look at it and make sure that it is correct and accurate to ensure that blind gamers get a fair experience. So if you're looking to troll, probably not going to work. The duo, Chaos Bringer, and the crew, and even at some point my pseudo brother, I call him Mole, may also be involved in this. At some point, we'll be looking at these things and making sure that our blind community is not getting screwed. There are sighted developers making this game so that we, the blind, can play. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and go into the next menu set. So we go back left arrow, go down one arrow. And this is going to take us to the mobs. This is for like all of your enemies and your enemy selections and how you want it to identify enemies in combat or differentiating between friendlies and unfriendly players and mobs, and making sure that you know audibly everything that's going on around you.
Target menu.
So we've got your targeting menu.
Target menu.
And we go down.
Options plus.
And we only have one thing.
Options plus.
And it's options, right? So we'll go into the options.
Friendly or hostile, and the level for players while in combat plus.
This is an important thing to have selected. And I mean not a little bit important, extremely important. So, when this is on, what will happen is it will tell you if your target, friendly, player, or unfriendly player, and or NPC is around you, what level they are, and whether or not they're hostile. This should be on by default. You can turn it off if you want a challenge, but I strongly advise leaving that on. Yes, it gives you some extra information that you have to listen to while playing the game, but not having that information could be horribly detrimental, especially if you're on a PvP server.
Announce friendly and hostile players plus.
This one's for players. It announces whether or not a player is friendly or hostile.
Announce player-controlled units with generic descriptions plus.
So these are player-controlled units, and it'll give it a generic description. And so under generic description, it'll just tell you that, oh, hey, that's so-and-so's pet. Not necessarily what type of pet it is, what its level is, or if it has a name. I leave mine off. I actually want it to tell me that what I'm targeting is something specific or has a name. You don't want to just hear, oh, it's so-and-so's pet. And it's simply because it gives you a vague description of what might be around, and you may not know what's actually trying to attack you. Some pets have casting abilities, i.e. warlocks. And so you might have someone who's running at you with an imp, and you want to target that imp to get rid of the extra damage that it can do, because you can pretty much insta-pop an imp, especially if you're a paladin. And then you can focus on the player. And once a warlock doesn't have his imp or his succubus or his fell hunter, they're pretty vulnerable. So it's pretty important to make sure that you know what the pets are and what they're capable of. So having that off is recommended.
Auto set private SKU raid targets on in-combat targets without a raid target plus.
So this is for raiding. And what I mean by raiding is you're in a group of more than 5 players, and you're either doing things in a battleground or a raid dungeon or a world boss, or you're maybe attacking a horde town or an alliance town, depending on your faction, and you can set up raid targets. So what these targets are markers that you put on an enemy. Skull, moon, diamond, circle, cross, or as we always called it, red X. And it will identify what target order you're supposed to be killing in. So for example, when we're raiding, and I've got a group of mobs, and there's a caster in there, and I'm like, okay, we want to take the caster down first because they can do the most damage. Or maybe this caster will heal all of the frontline fighters so that we take longer to kill them and risk losing out on the battle. You can target your healers. Let's say you're in Scarlet Monastery, and it's a Scarlet Invoker. So you would tab over until it says, oh, Scarlet Invoker, level 37. And you can then have a keybind. I usually do control and then one of the number pad numbers. And you can manually set those in the options. You may need someone sighted to help with that, unless you're comfortable with going through all the keybind menus one by one by one by one. It takes forever. But I'll show you how to do that anyways. I like to do control number pad 1 for skulls, number 2 for X, number 3 for square, number 4 for circle, 5 for moon. And so I would say, okay, Invoker's going to be skull, and then their tank will be square, and then the melee DPSer will be, cross. And so we'll say our kill order is going to be skull, square, cross. So everyone in the party will know, oh, okay, go and hit the skull. So now when you're tabbing through your enemy list as a DPSer or a tank, you will know, okay, I want the skull first. And so you would attack. It will tell you skull and then the name of the enemy and then their level. So it'll always announce the raid marker first. And you want that on. Because otherwise, it will only tell you it the first time it's posted. And if you were to tab off and then tab back to that enemy, it's not going to tell you that it's there. So you want that to be on.
Announce only marker for marked targets plus.
Announce only the marker for marked targets means we're going to announce the marker, but not the NPC's name. Once you have memorized your kill pattern, that could be useful, but I still like to know the name of the enemy that I am targeting. And the reason why I like that is because it allows me as a player, and I like to play tank on my paladin, to know what enemies are priority, and so I can preset my markers once we approach. So when I'm raiding with my wife, and I'm tanking, we'll get to the point and she'll say, okay, we've got our targets in front of us, and I can tab through and cycle through the enemy list and say, okay, I want the caster, and I know the caster by name, so I'm going to mark them with the skull. I know the tank by name. I'm going to mark them with a cross. And then we have our kill order, and I don't have to necessarily rely on a sighted player to tell me what we're supposed to do. And if you know the fights, then even as a blind player, you can still effectively instruct your party so that they can coordinate with you as a blind gamer, making things much easier.
Off. Announce only marker for marked targets plus. Repeat target markers on units plus.
So repeat target markers on units. This is, again, like I had mentioned, it will restate the name of that target. That's on. That way, when you tab off and tab back on, it will let you know, oh yeah, that marker's still there.
Repeat. Sound if target is in combat. Plus.
Now, this is a sound that would be played if a target is in combat. So, if you're trying to target someone's target, it'll make a certain noise, and it'll say, hey, this person
Or a sound check.
is in combat. So you know that that target is fighting. That means that, okay, if you're the tank, get your ass in there and pull it off of that player. If you're a DPSer and the tank's already in there, then you know, okay, combat's already been engaged. It will also coincide with once you start to attack, then your game will tell you that you are entering combat. But that sound means that the targeted enemy that you're going to select is already in action and fighting.
Sound if target is in options. Plus.
And that's all the menus for that. So now we're going to go down to chat.
Chat. Plus.
Chat allows you to have your text in the chat window spoken to you. For those with limited vision, your chat window is in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. You can make adjustments to the chat window because by default it is transparent. You can make the background opaque, and you can either have it pure white, pure black, or any other color you desire, and then you can adjust all of the font colors to work with what vision you do or do not have. Now, me personally, because of the way that my vision works, what's left of it, I need a black background with a bright colored text. And then even after I do that, I still need to magnify. And there are some tools available that you can do that with. Windows Magnifier, if you're playing on a PC. Zoom Text is a good app with a good magnifier function, but it does have a high graphics overhead. So you actually really do need a good video card and a good processor, because otherwise your game's performance will suffer. And if you are motion sensitive with moving lights and colors, that could be an issue. So if you're going to use Zoom Text, make sure you've got a good, strong graphics card and processor, and at least 16 gigs of RAM. Me personally, I'm using 32 gigs of RAM. I've built my own PC, running an AMD Ryzen 5 5600X, which is an older processor. It's about 3 years old now, but my video card is brand new, so I'm not really bottlenecked. I'm running an AMD Radeon RX 7800 XT with 24 gigs of video memory, so I've got more than enough compute and graphics power and VRAM that Zoom Text does not impact my computer's performance overall. So, anyway, when going through the chat menu,
Tabs. Plus.
you have your different chat tabs, right? These chat tabs are general, other, default, and then you could have a whisper tab and a guild tab, and you can create your own custom chat tabs and then determine through these options which tabs you want the screen reader to actively read and which ones you want it to actively ignore, where then you can access those chat menus manually. And I will go over accessing those chat menus manually again here while we're in this video, after we go through some of these options.
Default. Plus.
So we have the default tab,
Communication. Plus.
communication tab,
Plus.
another tab, and then you can create a new tab. These are, again, readable tabs, and you can dictate what you want to be read in those tabs.
Default. Rename.
I can rename the tab. I can delete the tab.
Set all message types and channels to silent.
I can mute the tab.
Set all message types and channels to text.
I can mute it to text.
Message types. Plus.
And then I can choose my message types.
Channels. Plus.
I can also choose which channels I want to be a part of. So in World of Warcraft, you have different channels. You have the general chat, you have the trade chat, you have the looking for group chat, and if you're using the SKU add-on, you will automatically by default get the SKU channel. Each channel is numbered, and so when you want to interact with that, you would press enter to activate the chat window, and then you would do / and then one of those numbers, and hit space, and then you could start typing, and it will activate that discussion in those channels. SKU is audible by default. General and combat and looking for group and all of those extra channels are muted. Local defense, they're muted by default, but if you want to be able to hear them, you can activate them. I tend to mute most of them unless I need it, because sometimes the chatter could be irritating, and if the channels are really chatty, it can interrupt the audio when you're trying to interact with things in the world. Now, if you're reading a quest or you're actively listening to something being read to you, then the chat channel chatter will play immediately after the screen reader is done processing that data. But if you're tabbing through mobs and your chat is going off at the same time, they can cancel each other out in mid-sentence, and it could make it a little bit difficult to get some of the information that you need.
Audio notification on chat message plus.
Audio notification on chat message just plays a sound. Oh, a chat message came in. Bong! Okay, great. I know that somebody's trying to talk to me. I can go back and look at it when I need to.
Audio notification on. Set all message types and channels to silent. Delete. Rename. Set all
So,
message types and channels to text.
just
Message types plus.
to go over the message
Combat
types
plus.
again, you've got combat,
Other plus.
other,
PvP plus.
PvP,
Player messages plus.
player messages,
System plus.
system
Creature
messages,
messages plus.
creature
Creature
messages,
messages plus.
and creature messages are for NPCs and or enemies.
Default plus.
And so you can choose what you want it to play audio for and what you don't want it to play audio for.
Tabs plus.
Okay.
Filters plus.
Filters, you can filter your chat so that you could say, I only want to hear chats from XYZ person. You can literally break it down to a fairly granular level, and it gives you options to really filter out what you want and not want to hear.
Combat log plus.
This is the combat log. This will read to you all of your combat statistics. Damage dealt, healing received, threat, you name it. This is very informative, especially when you're playing solo and you're trying to get a gauge on how well your character is doing. I would not advise having this on an raid. It'll drive you up a tree.
Audio log plus.
And an audio log is where it will keep a log of all of your previous messages in chat, in any of the chat windows. And it goes back, I think, 72 hours. So like if you log out and then you log back in, you can actually go back and listen to all of the previous messages that were left in your chat that you had in your last gaming session. You can clear it out through here by going into this, and then you can either activate it or deactivate it.
No. Yes.
I have mine off. I don't use the audio log. I don't think it's necessary. But some people might like to go back and look at some of their old stuff, so you can go ahead and absolutely say yes to that, and it'll keep an audio log of all of your chat interactions.
Chat plus. Tabs plus. Filters plus. Combat log plus. Audio options plus.
So here we have our options,
Chat settings plus.
and these are specific chat settings.
Shorten channel names plus.
So you could shorten the channel name so that it doesn't read the entire channel name.
Add line numbers plus.
You can add line numbers, so each line in the chat would be numbered, starting from 1 all the way through 999,999, and then once it reaches its maximum, then it will just start to filter out your old chats.
Delete whisper tabs without activity after plus.
So delete whisper tabs after activity. So if you're in a whisper with somebody and you want it to create its own tab for the whisper so that you can easily access that chat in your log, which is nice to have, you can have it set that after so many minutes of an activity, the whisper tab will delete itself. That way you don't have it sitting out there in your tabs list.
Add timestamps plus.
Timestamps are what they are. What time did that message occur?
Move timestamp to line N plus.
You wanted the line, you can either have the timestamp at the beginning of the chat or at the end of the chat. Up to you. I usually set it at the end of the chat.
Go to first line on tab switch plus.
So go to the first line on the tab. So when you switch to your chat tabs, you can either have it set to where it will be at the most recent chat or the first chat when you logged in. Leave it by default. You want to catch the most recent. It just makes more sense that way.
Delete chat history on login plus.
Delete chat history on login. This makes it so that when you log in, it will delete the chat history and clear your log. This will save space on the machine if you need to watch your disk space, and if you want to keep your chats private.
Show whispers in new tab plus.
Showing whispers in a new tab.
On.
I like to have that on. It just makes sense.
Audio notification on chat message plus.
Audio notification on chat message. When somebody messages you, it'll make a sound.
On.
I keep that on.
Audio notification on the end of chat messages plus.
Audio notification on the end of chat messages, I usually turn that off. no reason to keep it making extra noises if necessary. I like to keep things clean.
Audio notification on the end of chat. Chat settings plus.
And so that's all of our chat options for that.
Options plus.
But
Chat
now,
settings plus. TTS voice plus.
we have more. TTS voice. This is the voice that you wish to have for your text-to-speech.
Microsoft David Desktop English.
You only have two choices. Microsoft David,
Microsoft Zero Desktop English,
Microsoft
United
Zero.
States.
Me
Microsoft
personally,
Zero Desktop English, United States.
I tend to use the David, and I'm going to show you why. So I'm going to switch it to Zero.
TDS voice plus.
Zero's voice
TDS speed plus. TDS voice plus.
is, I don't know, it's less digitized, but to me it's a little more muffled. Maybe that's just me. Each person likes to have their own voice. I may play around with the Zero here for the rest of the video just to see if I can get used to it, but generally I use the David voice.
TDS speed plus. Options plus.
Now,
TDS pause tags plus.
TDS speed.
TDS speed plus.
This is how fast do you want the chat to read. I like to speed mine up a little bit.
6.
I'm at speed 6. I think by default it's at 3. I like to speed it up a little bit just because you need to be able to get to your information quicker.
7.
I run it a little slower than I personally would like because when my wife is with me and I'm playing from like my laptop, the voice talking too fast for her is almost overstimulating, overwhelming, and so it can be an irritant for those who aren't used to it, or you may just get picked on because it sounds like you're listening to a gerbil.
TDS speed plus. TDS pause tags plus.
Pause tags, I never really messed with this, but it's on by default, and I think what it does is it just kind of pauses in between different segments of the chat so that you know that there's a separation. So it would be like, communications, tab, general chat, and then read your message. And it'll give like a little pause in between those categorized segments.
TDS volume plus.
Volume, this you want to adjust. So I keep mine at about 80% for the TTS volume. You want to make sure that your text-to-speech volume is louder than the game sounds. And the reason for this is because when you're in combat, in a dungeon, or a raid, and you've got your game sounds turned up, and your speakers turned up, it's possible that the voice doesn't come through true. And so you may miss critical information in combat, including your life, and your mana, and your pet's life, and your pet's mana, that could be detrimental to your survivability or your group's survivability. And so you want to turn that volume up. One of the reasons why there were only 2 voices is that for each volume, they had to re-record the voices and re-add them into SKU. So that's why there's not additional voices in the add-on. I would love to see there be additional voices. I'd love to be able to set this thing up like with Diablo 4, where you could actually use a third-party screen reader tool and then allow its voice and its volume to be usable in the screen reader, because there are some really fantastic screen reader voices out there that are not so digitized, sound more natural, and really can give you a different experience when you're playing through the game. But you definitely want to increase that volume. By default, it starts at 45. I turn mine up to 80. And then I make adjustments to my in-game sounds so that it's balanced. Because I want, like I said, my text-to-speech volume to be louder than my game sounds.
TDS volume plus. Join SKU chat channel plus.
And then here's where you can join the SKU chat channel. You can turn that on or off, and it'll just either close or open that tab. Leave it on by default. If you're new to the game, especially, you can go in and do /4 space and then start typing and say, hey, I'm new here. And you can communicate with the rest of the blind community that uses this add-on. And so you can go ahead, if you're on the same server as us, and for example, on the anniversary server, we're on Dream Scythe, you can communicate with the blind community directly from there, even if we're not in the same guild, and allow you to ask questions about the add-on, or maybe ask for help, or whatever it may be, and it gives you an additional layer of communication with those that are vision impaired, or those that help vision impaired gamers.
Options plus. Chat plus. Quest plus.
Quests, that's just your quest log. We went over that in another video.
Core plus.
Core is some of the core functions of the game.
Mail plus.
Mailbox,
Action bars plus.
action bars,
Plus. Distance plus.
distances, which are set based on your targeting.
Game keybinds plus.
Keybinds. This is your keyboard controller configuration.
Reset all plus.
You can reset them.
Bind key plus.
Bind keys.
Plus. Addons plus. Action bar plus.
Look at your add-ons.
Action bar 2 plus.
Action bars.
Action bar 5 plus. Camera plus. Chat
Camera.
plus.
Chat.
Interface panel plus.
Interface panels.
Plus. Movement keys plus.
So you
Targeting
literally
plus.
can go through
Targeting plus. Details.
and reset
Details. Plus.
all of your
Bookmark 1 key 1 nothing. Plus.
control
Bookmark
binds.
key 1 nothing plus. Bookmark 2 key 1 details. Show all nameplates key 1. Assist target key 1 R. Attack target key 1 T. Show friendly nameplates key 1 V. Assist target key 1.
So
R.
assist target is a really important one to have.
Find new key. Assist target key 1 R plus.
By default, your assist target key is the letter R. What I mean by an assist target key is you have someone on follow, and you're in a dungeon, and they target an enemy and say, okay, we're going to attack this guy. You can press R, and it will immediately target their target. And you say, okay, I'm going to go get him. And you can then be interacting with your partner's target in real time, just as quick as they are, giving a seamless gaming experience, and it'll make it feel as though you're interacting with them in a timely manner and within the same process of thought that they may be in.
Attack target key 1 T plus. Show friendly nameplates key.
So
Attack target key 1
a
T
target attacking your target is the letter T. And so sometimes when you're in combat and you're fighting something and they say, okay, we're in a raid boss, and this boss is going to put up a barrier that if you hit him with a spell or you hit him with your weapon, the damage is going to reflect back at you. By pressing T, you can stop your target from attacking. And then say, okay, shields down, attack the target. Hit your T button again, resume attacking.
Show friendly nameplates key 1 Shift V plus.
Show friendly nameplates. This is a visual thing. Don't need to worry about it.
Interact with mouse over key 1 Shift G plus.
Interacting with a mouse. So if your mouse is on an object and you want to interact with that object, you can either left click it or you have a mouse interact button.
Interact with target key 1 G plus.
Interact with target, letter G. We went over that. That's where you can have it run up to and interact with a target as long as you're within so many yards. To start moving towards the target, you want to be within 60 yards. To talk to a target, you got to be within 5 yards.
Show enemy nameplates key 1 V plus.
Enemy nameplates, that's just the letter V showing enemy names.
Pet attack key 1 Shift T plus.
So pet attack, I have set to shift 1.
Start attack key 1 nothing plus. Target last hostile key 1 nothing plus.
Target last hostile, I don't have mapped. But I mean, again, you can literally go through every keyboard command that was built into World of Warcraft and change it or create one based on what you need. And so that's what's under the keybinds.
Targeting plus. Find key plus.
Very, very useful.
Find key plus. Reset all plus. Game keybinds plus.
All right.
SKU keybinds plus.
SKU keybinds. These are the keybind commands for the SKU add-on. This is where you can look at things such as the Shift F1 for the menu, Shift F9 for the tracker for the navigation, Shift F10 for a point-to-point navigator, Shift F12 to deselect all of them, Shift F4, 5 through 8 for your quick keybinds. That's all in this.
Reset all plus.
And you can go ahead
Find key
and
plus.
set your keybinds, or you can reset them to the
Find key
defaults.
plus. Clear all SKU. Combat monitor. Combat monitor. Set current target is. Do group members
So-
range check key nothing plus. Enable slash disable enemy soft. Enable slash disable friend soft targeting key.
That's
Enable
where all
slash
this
disable
stuff
object
is.
soft. Output current hard target key nothing plus.
Very useful to have.
Output current hard target key nothing plus. SKU keybinds plus. Core plus. Auras plus. Core plus. Auras plus.
Auras.
Plus. Options. Options.
This is to set your paladin auras or your aspect if you're a hunter. By default,
Options. 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 Auras plus.
oh,
Options. Options. Options.
this is unavailable. You can't do anything with it anyways. Oh, probably because I'm not on a paladin or a hunter. So you'll have, if you're playing a paladin, you're playing hunter, you're playing a character that has a by default secondary set of functions and commands, you'll want to go ahead and check that out.
Auras plus. Tutorials and wiki plus.
Tutorials and wikis. So this is a screen reader accessible browser built into SKU that will allow you to look at some wiki pages to get some additional information and how-tos on using the add-on.
Wiki plus.
as well as
Options plus.
some tutorials. There is a built-in in-game tutorial that you can do that you start with at level 1 based on your character class and your starting location. The add-on will guide you through the first 3 hours of the game, step by step by step, with an audible navigational assistant tool to teach you how to use the add-on. It does have its flaws, and if you log out and log back in, it could break the experience, which means you would then have to fight with the tutorial tool to get back to either A, where you were, or B, make a new character and start the whole tutorial from scratch. This is kind of what triggered me to decide to make these videos. Was when I first went through the tutorial, you had to dedicate those 2 to 3 hours to doing it. Otherwise, you were going to have some issues. And it doesn't go over everything. It does leave some of the information that I have put together in this video series out, especially things like fixing the mod when it's broken, doing filtering for navigation, filtering for bags, you name it. It'll also leave out things like the main menu, or what will be in the next video, the auction house. So it's important that, yes, you should maybe check out the tutorial if you're new, but if you're a pretty seasoned computer user, just follow my videos and you'll be fine.
Tutorials and wiki options plus.
This is where you can go in to check your options. Most of the options that are built into this tool are for your game's sound.
Options plus. Options plus.
And so,
Numbers plus.
speak menu numbers. This is so that when you're going through your list of menus in SKU, it'll say 1, then the name of the item, and then what your options are. Or it'll say 1, and then the name of the flight path. This helps with memorizing positions so that you can just hit your numbers to, jump through the menus quicker. Or you can do, like I had showed in a previous video, keyword filtering for what you're trying to find in your bags or at a flight master.
Announce submenus plus.
Announce submenus. It will read to you what the submenus are, or it'll say plus, letting you know that there is a submenu.
TDS speed plus.
TDS speed. This is the speed of the text-to-speech for the menus, not just the chat. This is the overall text-to-speech for the entire add-on.
85.
I have mine set to 85.
TDS speed plus. Background sound plus.
Background sound plays an audio, goofy noises or ambient sounds when you're in a menu, letting you know, hey, you're in a menu. So you are not able to interact with the game world because you're in a menu, and so you can listen for that sound, and it'll be like, oh yeah, hey,
Nothing.
I'm doing something, so maybe I should be careful.
Music for relaxation. Choral music 2. Local active plus.
Local active.
On.
This is where when a menu pops up and becomes active, it will automatically bring the screen reader to that active window without you having to go back and then reshuffle your navigation.
Local active plus. Audio channels plus.
Message, WhatsApp, one new message.
Oops, excuse me.
WhatsApp, one new message.
Audio channels is for
Overall volume plus.
volume. So you can have your overall volume,
Sound effects volume plus.
sound effects volume,
plus.
music,
Volume,
environment,
SKU
so on
channels
and
plus.
so forth. And so you can have your different volumes set through here so that you can balance your audio to make sure that your game sounds are where you want them and you can hear your screen reader
Audio
appropriately.
channels. Sound settings plus. Reverb plus.
This is your sound settings where you can do things like reverb and special audio effects. The reverb is cool because if you go into a cave or a dungeon, then you might have the sound echoing off the walls, and it's kind of a really cool little environmental thing, especially if you've got really good headphones or a full surround sound system like the one I'm using.
Positional low pass filter plus.
Positional low pass filter. This is for the audio positioning and distance filtering, especially for your navigational pulse tone. So the quieter it is, the further you are away. Closer you are to your location, the louder the pulse tone gets, and then the pulse tone will move about your speakers based on whether or not you're facing the right way.
DSP effects plus.
This is the Doppler sound profile effects. This is for that positional audio.
On.
and that's on by default. So that allows the audio of your pulse tone to move from speaker to speaker and not just control its volume.
Sound when game is in background plus.
Sound when game is in background. This is important. The reason why this is important is because sometimes you've got to Alt-Tab to look at something in a web browser, and you might need to look up some information about a quest. By having the sound on in the background, if the game is minimized and you get attacked, you know, oh crap, I'm getting attacked. I need to Alt-Tab back into my game so that I can take care of my character. Especially if you Alt-Tab out in the middle of nowhere, or if you want to be able to hear if somebody in your group or your guild are trying to talk to you while you're looking something up, then it will continue to play even the screen reader audio while the game is minimized.
Sound settings reverb plus. Zone music no delay. Zone music no delay plus.
Zone music no delay. This is where the game's music that plays will auto transition from zone to zone and give you just kind of a smooth, seamless music experience if you're using the in-game music. If you don't want the in-game music, you can hold down the control key and press the letter M for music, and it will mute the music. Doing so again will turn the music back on. If you don't want the game sounds and you only want to hear the chat, Control S will turn on and off your sound.
Sound settings, debug options plus.
Debug options is for developers. If you're a developer and you want to try to debug and fix problems within the game, this is where you go.
Quick select.
Quick select, never really messed with it. I leave it on
Quick select.
its default setting.
Quick select. Soft targeting plus.
Soft targeting, you can turn that on or off.
Overview pages plus.
Overview pages
Overview page 1 plus.
is just
Overview page 2 plus. Overview party 1 plus.
some information
2 plus. Buffs 3 plus. Debuffs 4 plus.
for like your
Skills
character
5
page.
Raid 1 plus. Buffs hidden plus.
There's your raid.
Hidden plus. Skills hidden. Overview page 2 plus.
So
Overview page
your
1
overview page is that character sheet that I was telling you about, right? And you have a different character sheet for when you're in a party versus when you're in a raid. These are settings you should probably look through and customize them to your needs. I kind of leave mine quiet for the most part because when I'm going through like a raid, I tend not to worry about knowing who has what buffs because it'll just make that sheet too long to go through. So there's some additional add-ons that I like to get when in groups, and I'll explain that in a moment. Just want to make sure that we've gone through everything. Okay, so profile. This allows you to have different profile configurations for the add-on. You can set up profiles for each character.
Show missing words with missing audio.
Show missing words with missing audio. So if there's words that are missing or messed up within the game, then it will fill in some of those blanks with just some goofy sounds. It's meant to be fun. Nothing more than that.
Show missing words with missing audio. Options plus.
And that's pretty much all of our options here.
Options plus. Options plus. Options plus. Local plus.
Local, this is whichever active window is open.
Local plus.
And that's literally everything. I do apologize if anybody heard my phone in the background. Somebody's apparently trying to call me, and I didn't have my phone shut off while recording, which was a bad idea for me. But that's okay. Now, as far as additional add-ons are concerned, there are some add-ons that you do want to get as a blind player that are pretty important. Questy is needed so that you can have your navigation and quest tracking within this add-on. And Questy gets updated regularly. So you want to make sure that you are updating your Questy add-on with each release of the game. Make sure that you get the correct version of Questy because, again, you have anniversary servers, which they call Classic. You have Season of Discovery, and you have Cataclysm, and you have your retail versions. And at some point, Cataclysm will turn into Mist of Pandaria, so that you got to make sure you're paying attention to the versions of Questy based on the version of the game that you're playing. Then the other mod that you need is called Deadly Boss Mods. Deadly Boss Mods is a tool that will audibly notify you when certain things are going to happen in combat with a boss fight in a raid or dungeon. Very, very important, especially because there are bosses that can do things to you that if you're not aware of, will kill you very quickly. It could be really detrimental to your party if you're not aware of what's going on at any given moment in time. The other mod that to me is a must-have is called GTFO. You already know what those 4 letters mean if you listen to the acronym. So if something is on the ground that is hurting you, it will make different tones based on the severity of the thing on the ground. A beeping tone will let you know, hey, you're being damaged by something on the ground. If you hear the sound that sounds like a nuclear launch is being detected, it will definitely catch your attention, and it will let you know, hey, if you don't move your backside out of whatever you're standing in right now, you're going to be dead in less than 5 seconds. So move. And it's a very, very, very important add-on to have. In the event that you get something put on you, like a debuff, where you're like a bomb and you can blow up your whole party, it will also let you know and give you an audible timer so that you know, hey, I have X amount of time to get away from my party so that I don't kill people. Very, very useful. Make sure that you get this GTFO mod. The other thing that some people like to get is called Let Me Know, I think is what it's called. It will let you know when buffs or debuffs fall off of your allies, so you know when to rebuff them. The other thing that you're going to want is called dark mode. At least I'd like to have it. What it does is it takes all of the text windows that are yellow background with brown font, and it flips them so that it is a black background with a white or yellow colored text. Makes it a lot easier on the eyes. So just a few things to note here at the end of the video. So if you've made it to the end and this information has been helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. It helps to get this content out to more people. It'll help the blind players interact better with the sighted players, and it will help sighted players better understand us as blind gamers so that we can interact with one another better. So the more that we get this out there and we share these videos, the better our lives are going to be. The next video that I will be producing will be for the auction house, because, oh boy, is the auction house a cluster. It is difficult to work with, and it takes some patience and some practice. And so we will go over the auction house on how to search for items, how to look at your bids, how to look at items that you're selling, and how to create new auctions so that you can sell your items to make money. Because it is an integral part of the game. If you can't make money in this game, you'll never be able to get anywhere. Thank you for watching. Have yourselves a good one, and take care.